I mean, there was no crime for like 4 days. 4 days. No, even the criminals were celebrating. This is amazing.
What's up, everybody? Trey Wingo here. Welcome into another episode of Half Forgotten History. Look, it's a fact the Packers are struggling right now. And it's not the first time the Packers have struggled in recent memory. They went through decades of not being really good after winning the first two Super Bowls in the 60s. And then their fortunes changed in the 90s. And one of the reasons their fortunes changed was because they drafted a player who not only would impact their defense, but come up with their signature celebration, the Lambeau Leap. I'm talking, of course, about defensive back LeRoy Butler. He's our guest this week on Half Forgotten History, talking about his legacy with the Packers, not only as a player, but as a guy who made a celebration cool. Enjoy. So I know it's great that you're finally in the Hall of Fame, but you're already in a more exclusive football fraternity than the Hall of Fame. You know that, right?
No, help me out, Trey.
Come on now. Homer Jones, the Spike, Billy White Shoes Johnson, the Dance, the Dirty Bird, Jamal Anderson, and the Lambeau Leap, man. Like, that's so iconic. You created one of the greatest touchdown celebrations of all time.
Yeah, I saw Ickey Woods. I wanted to see him.
Ickey Shuffle, yeah.
Yeah, I saw him at the Super Bowl, but I wasn't able to see him. I looked up to him because of that reason. And the reason why, Trey, I love it because it's with the fans. The fans are just so great. And sometimes I feel bad calling them fans because they're shareholders. I think they just raised another $65 million, selling stock shares. So I love it. I just really do love it.
Well, it is funny. Like the whole stock thing, if you're a Packer fan, you think it's the most valuable thing in the world. And if you're not a Packer fan, you're like, this is a worthless piece of paper. I don't understand. It's like your neighbor. There's no middle ground.
Yeah, it's your neighbor. Like, you spent how much for that? And it was like, well, we're different since 1919. We wanted to keep our team. And I think sometimes people forget about we don't have an owner. It's Mark Murphy. He's kind of the president, the head guy. But it's amazing setup.
Yeah, we'll get into the Hall of Fame and the invention of the Lambeau Leap a little bit later. But I just, in reading up about this, I was not aware of what you went through as a kid in Jacksonville. Like, I would imagine when you were young, the idea of playing any professional sport was the furthest thing from your mind because you had some real issues with your feet that you had to deal with.
I think my mom, it's a few people along the way helped me because, and Trey, I don't know why God chose me to navigate those rough waters growing up in the inner city, 5 kids, my mom's single parent. Right in the inner city, it was crime every day. I think for like 30 straight days or so, we averaged 2 homicides a day. And you were thinking, how was a kid who was special needs, special education, couldn't read, really small, had braces on my legs, couldn't run and jump like the other kids, but I was dead focused on making it to the NFL to get my mom out of the projects. And I was laser focused on that.
Well, yeah, so people don't know, you were born and they had to like break bones in your feet because they were so severely pigeon-toed, right?
It was just like this, and they're supposed to be like this. And
right.
First they gave my mom these corrective shoes. They're real hard, got this little iron piece, and she's like,
I wore those as a kid. I had to wear those shoes as a kid, so I know the shoes you're talking about, yeah.
And you see them in every little kid's picture. They're so cute, but they have this little bar. And the doctor told my mom, that's not working. He's still really pigeon-toed. So they put these Forrest Gump-like braces on me. And one of them was kind of straight. I was, so it kind of worked. I had to put in a cast. It was horrible. But I couldn't run, jump. I couldn't go swimming. I couldn't do like normal kids. Go to a sleepover. Trey, to me, the Super Bowl was to be on the top bunk bed. And I could never do that. So it was tough.
So when did you realize, or how did you get past that and be able to do the things that because you were voted one of the top 33 players in the history of Florida football.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. That's one of the accomplishments I'm really proud of. Florida had a lot of great athletes. I remember this conversation I had with my mother. First thing I used to go to my grandmother's house every weekend. And most of the kids, they're doing stuff on the weekends. It's a lot going to the movies, to the mall. I would go to my grandmother's house, and I would fill out. She used to sell Avon. It was just cosmetics type stuff. I used to
Sure.
fill it
Yeah.
out. She'd give me a quarter every time. And my granddad said, "Why you don't go outside?" Well, first of all, I can't. Second of all, I need to do something productive to make me feel like I want to make it. And that's when my mom gave me a tough conversation. She said, "It's a lot of African Americans, it's a lot of white people, Puerto Rican. We're all living in this area, and it's all poverty. But you gotta point and follow." She said, "To be a good leader." My mom was like a philosopher. To be a good leader, you have to be a good follower. Choose the right leaders. And I was like, "Who is
Yeah.
that?" And she pointed to my teachers. And then my grandmother took it to another level. And she said, "Listen, God gave everybody this talent." I said, "Well, Grandma, what's my talent?" She said, "Your talent is you have a unique ability to block out anything negative and just keep focusing on it. That's your talent."
And when did you sort of overcome the like? I read a story. I know this is true. Like you were watching uh, people play kickball outside, then somebody came in the room and knocked over one of your braces, and then you realized you got up and you realized you didn't need them anymore. Is that how it happened?
Well, sort of. My sister was late for the prom, or she was going on a
Okay.
date. And I'm just watching the kids play. And of course, I couldn't. And she was late. So she came running down. And she was like, "Well, I'm late. I gotta come down." And when she turned the corner, she kind of clipped me, and my braces broke. And then she was like, You can go outside now and play with the other kids." And I was like, "I don't think I'm supposed to take these off." And it's almost by a miracle. If she wasn't running late and me wanting to go outside, I don't know if it would have happened. But it just seemed like every time it was something negative, God would say, "I got you. You just gotta be a
Yeah.
good kid. I got you." And I'm telling you, Trey, it changed my life because I feel like,
Yeah.
hey, I can actually run, but not fast. I can actually
Yeah.
stand, but I can wobble. And I got rid of these crutches, and that was it. And after that,
Yeah.
I wanted to go outside and play kickball like the other kids. And of course, when the kids saw me, they were shocked. Like, we never
Yeah.
see him playing it because of that reason. So I was pretty excited.
So how quickly did you realize not only can I walk and I can run, but
Yeah.
I might be pretty good at this. I might be actually a pretty good athlete.
Oh, that's a good question. My sister would know because she raised 5 boys because my mom worked 3 jobs. But I was
Right.
always her favorite because I do exactly what she told me. And she said, "Listen, I'll take you to sign up for baseball if you walk me to the it's a dangerous neighborhood, but I wanted to walk her to.
Yeah.
She was what they call them a candy striper. It's like an intern at the hospital,
Sure.
Hospital. Yeah.
like a nurse, intern. So I would walk her there, and then we would have a discussion. Then when she got off, she takes me up there, and the coach looks me up and down. Like, "He can't run. I mean, we haven't seen him run." She said, "Yeah, but he's smart and he'll work hard." So baseball, Trey, the reason why I play for the Packers instead of the Brewers, the first pitch,
Yeah.
the kid hit me. And I was like, "Is he supposed to throw it at the catcher?" And then my sister and mom had this discussion. "No, we're not playing baseball. We're playing football because you're a special needs kid and you're not real fast. You're gonna need 10 other guys to help you. So let's just stick with the NFL." So,
Yeah.
but when my uncle Charles Durham took me out to play little league sports, I still wasn't that good, but I would stay out there and do things. And the coach took notice of that, probably like around the 7th grade.
Yeah, and then when you got to Robert E. Lee High School,
Yeah.
Boy.
you sort of took off there, right?
Yeah, look at God. I mean, this is amazing, Trey, because I never felt this talent. You know how people like LeBron James wake up and he's great.
Right.
He probably was born
Right.
with a beard and teeth and muscles. I wasn't. I had to work for it. I mean, so when I was at Terry Parker High School, I get a call, and my mom said, "Come talk." That's a different high school. My mom is on the
Yeah.
phone, and she's like, "You got to go to Robert E. Lee." And I said, "Well, why?" She said, "Well, they got this busing system based on your last name, not by, you know, poverty or money. They just wanted to kind of do some integration. This is the South now. So this is how they
Right.
think
Yeah.
down there." okay, the African American kids and the minorities and the white kids, they can all go to school together. But I didn't realize where I was going, Trey, to Robert E. Lee. And then my
Yeah.
uncle sat me down and said, wait a minute, let me explain this Confederacy thing, the Civil War. But you go there and you make a difference. You know, there's gonna be some difficulties, but so when I get to Lee, the best this is amazing. The best coach was Corky Rogers, my high school coach. Everybody wanted to play for him. I mean,
Right.
this guy was, I mean, he was a scientist when it comes to football. So when I got there, things started to change a little bit.
And when did Corky or the coaches tell you, like, did they tell you, hey, you can be really, really good, or was it something that sort of happened gradually?
Oh, that's another good question. I was in my algebra class wondering who invented algebra. I mean, I'm trying to add two letters to get a number and it turns into a ladder. This is not going to help me get in the NFL. But I'm sitting in my class. Coach Gary Warner gets me out of class. He said, hey, you're going to varsity. I said, wait a minute. I'm a JV guy. I'm like 152 pounds. There's no way I can go to varsity. I'm not ready. He said, nope, you're ready. Because they would move up 6 guys from JV. My 11th grade year, now Coach Corky Rogers said, hey, you're on the varsity. You've made it. And this is when my life changed. Coach Corky Rogers come to my English class, and he says, I need to talk to you. It's very important. I said, well, what's going on? He said, you're the first All-American in Lee history. And they're going to make an announcement over to the school. I said, well, why would they do that? He said, well, we never had an All-American. This is great. And it changed. I had no friends. I wore hand-me-downs. I had holes in my shoes. My brothers went to the school. Trey, they weren't even my friends. Nobody would talk to me because all I wanted to talk about was the NFL and Bible study. I get it. That is not real popular. But for me, it's emotional because my teachers were amazing. I mean, they were just great. They always kept me focused. And my senior year, when I found out I was a consensus All-American, the first in school history, that was life-changing for me because that's the first time I saw myself in the newspaper. Because I know some millennials watching and say, y'all had newspapers? Yes, we didn't.
Yeah, they have no idea. Yeah, they have no idea some of the things we had to deal with. Zero. So then you get to Florida State, and what was your experience like playing there for Bobby Bowden?
Well, here's the thing, Trey. I was a Proposition 48. Now, the cliff notes to that was, first of all, I was a consensus All-American. I got all these letters from all over, and everybody wanted me to come. But when I didn't pass the SAT test, my teacher, Miss Gordon, she's in my book, the LeRoy Butler story. She pulls me to the side, and she had this look on her face. Her makeup was running. She was very upset. I said, what's going on? She said, you can't go to college because of you didn't get an SAT score high enough with your core classes. I was like, what does that mean? But my mom, again, wasn't available. She took the application down, filled it out this thick. All the teachers, everybody filling it out. So I can go to Coach Bowden. Rest in peace. He had one visit, and he chose to come to the projects to tell my mom, and he's a man of faith. He said, I don't care about these rules. I must have LeRoy Butler at Florida State. And I drove 2.5 hours to tell you. I didn't want to mail you a letter. I didn't want to write a letter. No, I had to drive down. I told Coach, you don't want to come in the projects. Now it's rough. And him and Brad Scott, they came in there and they changed my life. All the other schools said, no, we can't accept you. Even though the rules said you can accept 6 kids. They said, no. He had one visit. He came. He changed my life. In my freshman year, I couldn't play, but it didn't matter. I was the first one in my family tree to go to college, and it was just so emotional. It's hard to even think about why did he do that? Because my life would have been over. I don't know what I would have did. I just don't know because my grandmother always said have a plan A and a B. But my grandfather used to yell in the background, "Don't have all, just make sure A works." And the only way I just so I don't know why he did it. I just don't know. And he was everything to me because when they were going off to play Michigan, I'm sitting there, I'm waving to the guys. The players thought I was weird. Like, why are you waving? I said, because next year I'll be like you guys. But that changed my life as a freshman.
I mean, I can clearly see how much it still means to you when you talk about it. What was your relationship like with Bobby once you got there?
Oh, now that was out. Coach Bobby Bowden is different. He loves you outside the uniform. So he always said, the name on the front, FSU, means a lot. But the name on the back, that's who you stand for. If you get in trouble, if you do something, domestic violence, if you disrespect somebody, they're going to say Florida State player, but your name, you represent your mom, your dad, your family. So that name is a big deal. So he taught me how to wash clothes because I was jamming like dollars when it says coins only. I mean, he said, no, you got to do this. He made me president of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I didn't know what that was, but I just know that he changed my life. In my sophomore year, when I was able to play, Mickey Andrews, that's our defensive coordinator. He coached Deion Sanders, Terrell Buckley, Martin Mayhew, all Derek Brooks. He said, get on every special team. That's how they notice you. That's the only advice I'm gonna give you. When I looked at the depth chart, Trey, I was the fifth string free safety, fifth string, because I sat out my freshman year. All those kids leaped, Lambeau Leap. They leaped ahead of me because I didn't play, but I was on every special team. I got noticed.
Yeah, and when after you got noticed and started playing, did you think, okay, I might really be able to do this. I might really be able to realize my dream and maybe get drafted and play in the NFL.
Well, here's the thing. We went to Clemson, and we had this fake punt called the puntrooskie.
Fumblerooski, the puntrooskie.
Yeah, the puntrooskie. And my nephew is his favorite play. And when he watch it on YouTube, whether he just loves it. I remember that particular play, Trey, because we were saving it for Florida. We played them at the end of the year. And I remember Coach, we did it in practice. It didn't work. We said, we'll just try it on our punt return team, see if it worked. It didn't work. They sniffed me out. So when we were running, we were down on our own, like 20-yard line. And Coach, it was fourth down as I'm running on the field because I was always on the punt team. So Danny Ford and Clemson, nothing looks out of the ordinary. And Coach covered his mouth. He says, run it. I said, wait, what? It's raining. Burt Reynolds had just bought us these white uniforms. We were so fly. And I was like, are you sure? He said, yes. So as I'm going out there, I'm like, run it. That's all we had to say. And everybody knew what to do. Our punter jumped. Like the ball went over his head. The whole 80,000 people, they're jumping up and down like the ball went over. And they just see me running. And I wasn't real fast as we first started this interview. Running down. Yeah. One of my best friends, I love Donnell Wolford. He's back. He's punt returning. He's looking like, what is going on? Then he sees me. So he knocks me out at like the 3. Richie Andrews, one of my boys, that's my guy. He made the field goal. That's when I say, I'm getting noticed. Deion Sanders get drafted by Atlanta. Coach Bowden calls me in his office, Trey. I'm like, what does Coach Bowden want? He said, don't even sit down. I said, what do you mean? Because normally when you go into the boss's office, have a seat. He said, just stay right there. I got to move you from safety to corner because Deion is leaving. I think you can play corner. I said, Coach. And I put my hands out. I said, one of my feet are like this. I can't really backpedal. Don't worry about it. You're going to corner. He moves me to corner. Coach Andrews, he was teaching me to this backpedal like Deion and Terrell and May. I couldn't do it, Trey. I was like a shuffler because it was my first year playing corner. And he just said, wait. No more backpedal. Just play. And I appreciate him for doing that because it made me kind of grow into the position because I wanted to be like a bump and run, a press corner bail guy, and he wanted me to kind of be off so you can get more interceptions. And I was like, I can't. But I won't say I can't. I'll just say I'll try. Yeah. And it just didn't work. So he stopped me one day and prayed, oh, wait. just do what you do. And that's when it hit me. One day I may have an opportunity to get drafted.
Well, you did actually get that opportunity, and you certainly made the most of it. So why don't we take our first break here? When we come back, we'll talk about how a kid from Jacksonville, Florida, goes to Tallahassee and gets drafted by some place in Wisconsin. We'll get with that with LeRoy Butler right after this. Time for our Mercedes-Benz trivia question. Hall of Famer LeRoy Butler was the first member of a very elite group of defensive players. At least 20 sacks, at least 20 interceptions. We want to know how many other defensive players have joined LeRoy Butler in that category. We'll give you the answer after the break. You know, you open up a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter and you're opening more than doors. You're unlocking potential to do your own thing, be your own boss, and live out your own dreams. With 16 body types, your choice of a gas or diesel engine, and thousands of ways to customize, a Sprinter van is capable and versatile enough to help you drive your ambitions as far as you want to take them. So go ahead, unlock your potential inside a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter. All right, back on this episode of Half Forgotten History with LeRoy Butler. So you finally break through, you play great for Florida State, and you're waiting to get drafted. What were people telling you about the draft, where they thought you might go?
Well, the good thing about that particular question, I was a consensus All-American. We fly out to meet Bob Hope. So I'm out there, and we're on his show. You hear everything from scouts, media people. You may go in the first, second round. I go back to my small apartment, no air conditioning. We got about 40 people in there. We have no food. We have one television. It's so small you have to watch it one at a time. It's in black and white. It got these little antennas with the aluminum foil on it, praying that no one bumps into it and the cable goes out. And at the time, Trey, and as I think you may know this, I was a huge Cowboy fan. I was such a big fan that from like 12 and up, when they lost games, I would cry. I'm crying. So I'm thinking, I hope it's Cowboys draft me, because that would be amazing. And we had these rotary phones, so I have anxiety to this day. I have anxiety, so I'm thinking the phone's not going to ring. What if they call me and they can't get me? Again, there's no internet. There's none of that.
Yeah, nothing like that.
I'm thinking, my mom's like, no, God is good. They'll call. The first round goes. I remember talking to Dick Duran. He was my defensive back coach. We had a small conversation, but I said, the Packers are not going to draft me. Everybody said I was going to the Houston Oilers. And then I kept hearing the Bears. And then San Francisco. And then I'm sitting there. The first round goes. I'm a very patient guy. The second round Trey, and I'm starting to pace in my mind. My anxiety is going out. The mental illness is going out of control, because I don't want to. I'm the first guy in this project going to get drafted. It's about 50,000 people outside. It was like the Bucks won the championship. Wow. The Milwaukee Bucks. Remember that, Cameron? I said it was like that in the project. Wait for me to get drafted. And look at God, the phone rings. And I go to the phone. Hello, this is Lee Rimmel with the Green Bay Packers. I said, did he say Packers? It was like God was talking to me. He said, we're going to select you with the 48th pick, but you got to talk to the head coach first. He was talking real fast. I said, why? What's going on? Well, at that time, they didn't want people, if you don't want to go to this team, you embarrass them, say, I'm not coming. I say, Mr. Rimmel, only quarterbacks do that. I'm coming, okay?
Yeah.
Lindy Infante gets on the phone. Lindy Infante gets on the phone, and it was the best day of my life. He said, LeRoy, you're coming to the most storied franchise in history, the Green Bay Packers. We're going to select you with the 48th pick in the second round. He said, just stay on the phone. So they turned in the card. I remember Chris Berman. That's my guy. That's the GOAT. The Packers just select LeRoy Butler. My whole insides just stopped working, and I couldn't move, because my mom was praying, thanking God. People were running all over the projects. There was no crime for 4 days. 4 days. No, even the criminals were celebrating. This is amazing. Plotting, how can they rob me? It was funny.
That's great.
It was hilarious. the mayor was like, I never seen this. The crime rate went down because LeRoy Butler got drafted. And I'll never forget that day. It changed my life because you're going from poverty.
Yeah.
I mean, poverty to a possible millionaire. I mean, how do you wrap your head around that?
It can be difficult, and that's why sometimes that transition is really hard for a lot of kids. And we forget that they are kids. But now, like you said, Jacksonville, Florida, Tallahassee, Florida, and now you're in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And the Packers, as we now know them, were not the Packers that you went to. This was a franchise that had their great years and then went through 2 decades of a lot of really bad football. And you landed right before it all started to turn around again in the early 90s.
You know, it was tough because I went to 2 Fiesta Bowls and a Sugar Bowl. That's back when bowls were a big deal. So I'm used to winning at least 10, 12 games. Right. And I remember my first year, my rookie year, 1990, it was bad. I mean, we were 6-10, then 4-12, and then it was like it was a losing culture. But things started to change. I got another phone call. There was Lee Rimmel. Again, they said we just hired a new coach because Ron Wolf came in, and it was Mike Holmgren. Now, Trey, I didn't know who the hell Mike Holmgren was. I'm like, sort of like what people would think after Mike McCarthy, you get Matt LaFleur. Like, who's Matt LaFleur? I mean, you just don't know. Right. So I come back up and I meet him, and he's a tall guy, and he's very soft spoken, but he had a Super Bowl ring. I said, okay, I see the connection. Oh, this guy has been around San Francisco, Montana, Young, Seaford, Bill Walsh, West Coast. I said, oh, this is great. Brett Favre comes in. Trey, things started to look different. Because we had the Magic Man, Mikowski.
John Mikowski, yeah.
Yes, Magic Man was everything. But Brett comes in from Atlanta, and he just wanted an opportunity. I think he was 3rd string down there. We gave up a first-round pick for him. Probably one of the best trades of all time, Packer history. And then Trey, the next year, we got Reggie White, and then the culture changed.
Well, I was about to say, really, 3 things changed everything. Obviously, getting Holmgren, obviously trading for Favre, but for people that don't remember or didn't live through the pre-free agency era of football, the idea of Reggie White, who at the peak of his powers could have gone anywhere he wanted to go, he chose to go to Green Bay. That changed the entire landscape of what was possible with that team.
And that was one of these narratives that people say they want big-time players to go in big markets, not the smallest market. And there was a report that Reggie signed a 4-year, $17 million deal with San Francisco. And I think he was in San Francisco. So Mike Holmgren calls him, say, Reggie, this is God. You got to sign with the Packers. And Reggie was like, oh, okay. So when Reggie is in Green Bay, nobody knew. He was like, when I read that report in the paper, he was there like a couple of days later. So when I went to get my physical, I saw Reggie. It was like seeing a unicorn. Did I just see that? Wait a minute. So I go in there because I'm real nosy because I'm from Duval, right? I say, Reggie White, what are you doing here? I thought you was in San Francisco. He said, Roy Lee, God told me to come to the Packers. I looked up. I said, thank you, God. And then I said, wait a minute. Did it have anything to do with the Packers guaranteeing the $17 million? He goes, well, a little bit, yeah. The Packers.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, they structured the deal where it was guaranteed. So not only did he sue the NFL to be a free agent, he chose the smallest market. They fixed his contract the way your 4 years, you'll get every penny. And when he came in that locker room and gave his first speech, he mentioned championship. We haven't heard that since 1968, the fans. And it was great. It was just the culture changed.
Yeah. And for people that don't know, they may know that you, as we talked about at the top of the show, you created the Lambeau Leap, but it was on a play that involved Reggie White.
Yes. I called the fumble. I think Randy Jordan, Vince Evans was the quarterback. I cause a fumble. Reggie picks it up and he's running. And I remember in my mind, Holmgren said, if a defensive back or a lineman or a linebacker, you get a fumble or interception, don't ladder it because you're going to fumble it. So as I'm running over there, it had to be 12 degrees below. It was freezing cold. The field was frozen. I'm running over there. And I looked at Reggie, and he's running. I said, wait a minute. He's going to ladder this ball. So I run over there, and he laddered it just as he was falling. I got it. And as I'm running, I'm thinking, this is cool. Now, I'm a Florida State guy. So I said, what do I want to do? This is my first touchdown. And I said, I'm going to just jump. It was just spontaneous. I'm sure the fans are like, wait a minute, why isn't he stopping? What's going on here? And I throw the ball down and I jump up there and hug the fans. That's something that was never thought of, to thank the fans for sitting in these crappy seats right in the end zone. Most people want to be in the 50-yard line.
Right.
It was great. And then a few years later, Robert Brooks made a song about it, and it just blew up. And it was amazing. It really was, because the fans loved it. They absolutely love it. They loved it.
Did you have any idea what it would become when you did it that first December in 1993?
No idea. And I remember the president, Bill Clinton, comes to see us. And he comes in, and we're all in Lambeau Field. And I asked Robert, Robert, do you got the CD? Again, CDs, we don't have them anymore. He said, yeah, I got it. Jump in the stands. I said, give it to me. He gives it to me. I go over to the president of the United States, Bill Clinton. I said, Mr. President, now Secret Service at this time should like, sir, don't take anything, They let me give it to him. And I said, this is about, my friend wrote this song, Jump in the Stands, and it's about the Lambeau Leap. He said, what's the Lambeau Leap? You don't know about the Lambeau Leap? But do you not have the internet? What is going on? I mean, he's like, no, what? So I explained it to him. He put it like a real true gangster. He put it in his coat pocket. And he said, I'm going to listen to it. And me and Robert went, what just happened? And once people heard that story, it blew up everywhere. Everybody was listening to Jump in the Stands by Robert Brooks. And that song, I mean, one of my favorite songs. And that's when I knew, it took off. It took off after that.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, Robert Brooks, wide receiver
oh my
for the
God,
Packers.
He was good.
Yeah,
one of the best
he was really, really good.
Yes. He scored a lot more than me.
So, yes, he did. Yes, he did. So Reggie got there and the tide started to turn, but you guys had one problem. And I guess it's somewhat ironic because it was your favorite team growing up. That Cowboys team in the 90s was your nemesis for a long, long time in the postseason.
It was, because the 90s, Trey, as you know, it was three teams dominated the 90s. San Francisco, Dallas, and Green Bay. Now, Deion was like jumping back from Cowboys to San Francisco, but 1995, the Cowboys beat us. We had them on the ropes, but they beat us, and they're going to win the Super Bowl. But I remember on the plane, you know how you're supposed to sit on your seatbelt until you go up to 10,000 feet? Mike Holmgren is getting up after the Cowboy game, telling everybody, next year we're going to win it. Next year we're going to win it. To every row, next year we're going to win it. Because he said, I know what's missing. Desmond Howard, that's my guy. Andre Rison, Bruce Wilkinson, Ron Cox. Oh, I know what I need. Because we had great offensive defense. We didn't have a good special teams. So he put together, him and Ron Wood put together an amazing meal of ingredients. And the next year, 26 years, almost over 25 years later, we just celebrated. We went into Super Bowl 31.
It's interesting that you say that, LeRoy, because Super Bowl 31, really the thing that sort of put you guys over the top was Desmond Howard's return, right? That was the Patriots just made a really close game. And what you just talked about is the thing that sort of pushed you guys past the Patriots and put you on your way.
And that was the difference. That really was the difference in the game, because we on that track, we beat a lot of teams, and Desmond is the Super Bowl MVP, by the way. Some people thought it was Brett. But like I said, we had great defense. I got a sack. Reggie got 3 sacks. We had an interception. Brett had a great game, but the difference was special teams, and they had just scored. And I said, if they kick it to Desmond, it's a wrap. And they kicked it to him, he returned it.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that day when Holmgren, we were looking at the trophy. And that's when grown men will cry. We will cry when we win championships. But I remember holding that trophy and I saw Lombardi's name on it. And that's when it's, and then some intern said 80, 90 million people saw that game. And then I saw a sign, Trey said, 30 years of misery has ended. We're going to the Super Bowl, and we won the Super Bowl. That was just so impactful for the city, the state, and I think it was good for the NFL too, the smallest market, playing one of the teams with, the Patriots, and Bill Parcells, who I thought was an amazing coach. I mean, beating them meant a lot to us.
Well, absolutely, and it proved the structure of the NFL works, because there's no city smaller than Green Bay, and if they can win a championship, anybody has that opportunity. Look, Green Bay is so unique on so many different levels, and you still call Wisconsin your home now. What was it like being part of that team that sort of returned the city to glory, as well as the franchise, and the relationship that you guys had with the team and the city and the fans?
It was just so, because the fans are our DNA, and the team is, everything is the G. The G is everything. Players change, the G won't. But once you win a championship in Green Bay, everybody's like a rock star. You're the lead singer. Not just Brett, not just me, not just Brett. You could be just a guy that never played. If you played for the Packers, Super Bowl 31, you were dressed, you were the lead singer. And I mean, you were Drake. Yeah. Everybody was Drake, okay? And there was no DJ, everybody was number one. And you said to yourself, this is amazing because of the fan base. Everything up here is green and gold. And you also know this, that our economy is tied to the Packers. I mean, everything, when they win, everybody spends money. When they lose, it's like a ghost town. I mean, people don't even shovel the snow. And so, I mean, it is what it is, because it's everything. And we had so many parties, and we had it was just so many celebrations, because you never know when you can get back to winning another Super Bowl.
Yeah, and that's something that the current Packers are trying to figure out as they go through some stuff, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But you retired after the 2001 season. You played 9 games that year. Did it ever occur to you when you finished that one day you'd end up in the Hall of Fame?
I'll be honest. Lee Rimmel, I've mentioned his name a lot. I remember I was all decade. He walked by my locker. Because he told me how to deal with people like you, media guys. He was just, because I wanted to know, like, how does this work? I mean, what is a teleprompter? How do people read this stuff? And, how do you get this information processed? And he told me that you guys are some of the smartest people in the world, because you can process information. He said, the reason why I say that, because you're all decade, the voters voted you in. One day you may get in the Hall of Fame. And he just stopped. And he said, do you understand the impact of what I'm saying? He said, you were first team, okay, all decade. And after that, I said, well, I don't know how realistic it is. I don't know. But I thought about it, when he said that to me, and it meant a lot, because you only have so many guys on that particular team. And then I remember a conversation me and my mom had. She said, wouldn't it be great? She passed away 5 years ago. Wouldn't it be great for African American in the inner city? He got his first new shirt from the Salvation Army, from getting bullied from K through 12th grade, winning the Super Bowl. But if you ever make it to the Hall of Fame, that's on a different platform to tell your story. More people, you'll get a chance to tell more people your story. And she was right about that, because it's been life-changing for me and my family.
And the wait, it took 20 years, you have to wait 15, you have to wait 5. So we're talking 15, 16 years. Did you ever lose faith that it might not happen?
No, absolutely not. Remember, if you know my story, I've been waiting my whole life. I waited to play sports. I waited to swim. I waited to do normal stuff. But I do know what it feels like if you're a young lady and every year you're thinking that he's going to propose to you and he never does. And next year your
Yeah.
friends say, oh, he's going to do it. And he never does. And then you just give up. Then you say, no, I got faith because he's a good guy. I'm going to give him a chance. And then next thing you know, he shows up to your door and it's Charles Woodson. And you think, now, I know people, the cliches that, great things happen from, patience is a virtue, all that kind of stuff. But if you really don't believe it, it's hard to wrap your head around it, because I remember Mr. Baker calling me that my first year when I was eligible, I was a finalist. I was so excited. He said, unfortunately, LeRoy, you didn't make it. I said, wait, Mr. Baker, wait, I got a chance to meet Roger Staubach, okay? That was my hero growing up. I'm good. That was my first year. The second year, it was the pandemic. Well, we're still going through it, but I'm just saying, I'm okay with it. And he said on the phone, but you made the final 10, so you never know. This year, I didn't know how they were going to do it. Jim Porter runs it now. And his idea to have my teammate do it was platinum, because I never thought it would happen like that.
Have you thought about what that night in August is going to feel like yet? Have you even allowed yourself to go down that road and think about all the people that helped you along the way, whether it was your grandmother, your mother, Bobby Bowden, Lee Remmel?
I've been thinking about it my whole life, and it just means so much if you're a parent with a special needs kid. Like my son, LeRoy Butler IV, who's my favorite, by the way. I got 6 daughters and him. And they say you're not supposed to say that, but that's my guy. He's autistic, and he may never do the Lambeau Leap. He may never do it, but to him, a paragraph is the Hall of Fame to me. And he was like, congratulations, Dad. I'm so proud of you. Then you get all emotional, but you also have to think about the people who helped you, my coaches. I've always wanted to be coach, Trey. I really do. When I found out these guys over in this building, I used to pass by the building. I saw the light on, 11 o'clock at night. I owe it to him to listen. I said, I can't do this. I just, all that go in your head. But I just wish Coach Bowden would have been here, because he would have been the one to introduce me, because he's funny, he's articulate, he has great stories about me by visiting me. And when he passed away, it hurt me, because it's like I wanted him and my mom. Oh my goodness! But I know they're watching and they're so happy. But Coach Bowden would have been amazing. It would have took him 3 or 4 minutes, because the way he knows me. So I've thought about all of that and how different it's going to be when people see it.
Why don't we take our second break here? We'll come back and talk about what's happening with the Packers now with LeRoy Butler, see if he can figure out just all the problems. He'll figure out all the problems for the Packers. We're coming right back. Stay with us. Want to make a bet this NFL Sunday? Let's get you caught up the best way we know how with Trey's Trends, presented by Caesars Sportsbook. So what do we make of the NFC? Let's just say it's on the struggle bus right now through the first 8 weeks of the season. The last 4 teams in the NFC in the playoffs last year, the Niners, the Packers, the Bucs, and the Rams, are a combined 13-18, and none of those teams have a winning record. Keep in mind, those were the top 4 teams in the NFC with the best odds to get to the Super Bowl at Caesars Sportsbook when the season began. Then things have changed dramatically. Right now, the Eagles on the top spot in the NFC with odds 7-1, followed by the Niners, a distant second at 12-1. After that, you got the Vikings at 15-1 and the Cowboys at 16-1. As for the Rams, they are now 40-1 to repeat as Super Bowl champs, and the reeling Bucs are at 25-1. And these 2 teams, the Rams and the Bucs, meet in a huge matchup Sunday, Tampa Bay opening up the week as a 3-point favorite. However, including that divisional round playoff game in January, the Rams have actually won and covered 8 of the last 9 meetings against Tampa Bay. Ready to place your bet? Download the Caesars Sportsbook app to get in on all the action. Time for the answer to our Mercedes-Benz trivia question. LeRoy Butler was the first defensive back in the 20-sack, 20-interception club. How many other players have done it? Well, there have been 6 other defensive backs to do it. Brian Dawkins, former guest on Half Forgotten History, Rodney Harrison, Lawyer Malloy, Rondé Barber, former guest on Half Forgotten History, Adrian Wilson, and Charles Woodson. And now back to more of our Half Forgotten History episode with Hall of Famer LeRoy Butler. All right, back with Hall of Famer LeRoy Butler now. So the Packers made one great transition once. They made the transition from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers perfect, unbelievable, almost seamless in terms of the production and the consistency. Are we on the verge of maybe having to do that again? What's happening in Green Bay?
It's hard to say because at one point, last year Aaron didn't really know if he wanted to play, and I thought it was two things that Aaron would sitting in a room with Brett Favre for 3 years. First, don't throw interceptions, and he doesn't do that. And the next,
no, he does not.
Kind of make your mind up later in your career how you want it to go. And last year, him not being there for a while, Jordan Love did get a chance to take all the reps. And so when he finally came back, I said, okay, this won't happen again. They worked it out. So now here we are again. And it's just now, Trey, I'll say this. We as a society, as fans, we allow all 32 quarterbacks to do this kind of stuff. To
Correct.
kind of do things differently. Because Tom Brady, I think he should have stayed with New England, but they let him play his contract out, so he's able to go to Tampa and win a Super Bowl. I mean, that's platinum. You could put that to the side. Now, I've never thought I would see this when Gutekunst got to the podium and said he brought in Randall Cobb for Aaron Rodgers. I didn't ever think he would say it. I thought maybe if we knew it behind the scenes, it was fine. But now they've done everything last year for Aaron to make it work. And DeAndre Campbell, who's an all-pro linebacker, they had everything to win a Super Bowl. They were $45 million over the cap. I've never seen that before. Never. Not in Green Bay. When Ted Thompson was there, they were $18, $19 million under the cap trade, and the fan base would be livid. Spend the money. Well, they did that. So, and it didn't work out. This year, as we do this interview, Aaron hasn't come in. They haven't made their mind up, but the team said they want him back. So Matt LaFleur, who needs to get a new extension this year, Gutekunst, who also needs to get another extension, and Murphy, they're on the same page. They want him back. So, okay, fine. That's the direction we're going. They got to figure it out because they got to let a lot of players go. They got to restructure some of these deals. They did it with Kenny Clark and Aaron Jones but they need more money to even draft. Yeah. So it's just a mess right now.
Yeah, and the whole thing with Devontae Adams,
Yes.
They're talking about they don't want to use the franchise tag on him, but if they have to, they will. So you're right. It's just a weird situation because normally this is not where the Packers find themselves, right?
No, we don't normally get these headlines. It's normally, okay, we're looking forward to trying to put a team out there for the Super Bowl. We got this guy, and the other teams deal with that. For the last 2 years, it's been kind of a back and forth. How do you put together a team? But they said they're all in. They're going to push all this money to the future. It's almost like normal Americans when you're overdrafted in your account, but you still write checks.
Yeah.
And you can't put money in, and they'll just keep the bank will just keep whacking fees to you. The next thing you know, you owe more fees than on top of the checks. They're trying to figure that out with avoidable years now with these teams. They give you money, add 2 phantom years on just to make it work. But if Aaron would say, listen, and I don't know if the reports are true about him $150 million. I don't really care. Just come in, get a deal worked out so you can save some money, get under the cap. Now you can sign some of these core players to try to go for it again. Because the Rams, I'm going to tell you, I respect their GM. I didn't know who he was, but that man said,
Les Snead.
Hey, screw draft picks. I want a Super Bowl. Standing ovation. Because I like that kind of transparency. You want 15 first-round picks? Keep them. I want to win it in SoFi. I need Matthew Stafford, blah, blah, blah. Nice coach may retire. Stop it. It don't matter. This guy has proven it. Y'all can have all those draft picks because he probably said, Trey, the closest I'm going to get to a Super Bowl will be a veteran, not a rookie. So, hey, some teams are going to do that. So the Packers may look at that and say, you know what, let me think about this for a minute. With Jordan Love, if I trade Aaron Rodgers and Devontae, I get all these picks. It'll be a start of a rebuild. Can we still win the North? Probably, because the North is terrible. So you're thinking, well, what do we do? Do we put a great team around Love? Nope. We'll play with Aaron Rodgers. We'll push all the money in the future, and we'll try to win a Super Bowl. And the fans will be okay with it if you can win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, they've been waiting since Super Bowl 45. So as we've learned through this, and you've learned through your life, you are a very patient man. Aaron Rodgers had to be a pretty patient man for a few years. What would you say to Jordan Love, who, again, they moved up to get him. They moved up to get him in that first round. It wasn't like when Aaron fell to them in the 2005 draft. What would you say to Jordan Love about being a patient man?
I would say that you may not be the guy. Because if you were anything like they hope you would be, they would have moved on from Aaron. They just would have. And you would have a chance to get the keys to the franchise as did Aaron. You know, when he had to wait 3 years for Brett. Brett kind of waffled. I don't know if I want to come back. Hey, Ted Thompson and Mike McCarthy, the trainers left the station. We were 6-10 with Aaron the first year. I'm fine with it. At least the anxiety and this drama, I'm done with it. But no, I would, if it were me, if I was his age, I would ask for a trade. Trade me for a second or third round pick to Denver with Nathaniel Hackett. I can go there and develop. And because you got to try to win while he's in his rookie contract. So that'll be great for Denver or one of these teams. But to put him in that room, okay, because like in my meeting room, Trey, it's like 70,000 of defensive backs. It's 100 linemen. In a quarterback room, it's like 2 or 3 guys. So you're going to put him back in that room, and he's staring at Aaron Rodgers with a 3-year extension. He's not going to play for another 2 years. They'll pick up his option. Yeah, he'll make good money, but he's not going to play for 5 years. And what if he's no good? And Aaron is gone, he's no good. You got to start all over. So I would think you got to, if you want Aaron back, fine. You got to be fair to Jordan Love and just move him for whatever you can get. And now the Packers will go for it the next 3 years. And then when your grandkids and my grandkids say, hey, why the Packers terrible? Well, back in 2022, they moved all this money and it's coming due now, so they don't have any money to sign players. And they're okay with it.
Yeah, it would be weird, because Denver was one of those places that rumored that he was going to go, and they send Jordan Love instead of Aaron Rodgers. That would be interesting. That would be interesting, and not the way. Hey, we got the Packers quarterback, just not the one we thought we were going to get.
And then you never know. When Nathaniel Hackett was the coordinator the last 2 years, he's been around Jordan Love. He said, well, we couldn't get platinum, but hey, maybe we can get this bronze and make something out of it. If you put together some great players around these quarterbacks, you may not need a Hall of Fame quarterback. Think about 2 4 seeds was in the Super Bowl. I mean, Joe Burrow, second-year guy. I mean, he's going to be a platinum guy. But Matthew Stafford, I mean, look at God. This guy was in purgatory in Detroit. Get a phone call, you go there, you win a Super Bowl. But he had 17 picks, but they still won. So if Jordan Love goes somewhere to a good team, and maybe throw a few picks, if you got a good team around you, you can still win in this league.
Listen, it's always good to catch up with you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your story. And I can't wait to see you in Canton this summer when you finally get your long overdue gold jacket. It'll be a lot of fun. So thanks again to LeRoy Butler for joining us. And maybe his episode will spark a turnaround for the Packers because they could use it. Coming up next week on Half Forgotten History, another Hall of Famer who has the distinction of having more sacks than anybody else in the history of the NFL, the legendary Bruce Smith. We'll talk to you next week.